Hi everyone, it's Elisa from Moonstruck Vintage. I'm coming to you today with my second video of my behind the scenes series of my brick and mortar vintage store. But before we get into the details of that, I wanted to share with you these two gorgeous lamps that I just found yesterday while I was outsourcing. They're like a beautiful golden brown, drippy paint, 1960s, really super cool and super mod pair of lamps. I do have to hunt down shades for those. Sometimes people like to provide their own shades, but I do find that they sell better when they come with their shades. Shades can be quite expensive, but if I keep hunting, I'll probably find them. The challenge will be finding two that match. The other piece I wanted to share with you that I just picked up was this beautiful Colombian needlepoint. And I'm going to bring it up close so you can see it. It's a very naive farm scene, hand-done, handmade frame. Absolutely gorgeous. Just love the colors and love the fact that it's actually embroidered on burlap. So it's really special. So I just wanted to show you those two items. I haven't been sourcing this month. Been on a bit of a low buy month for January, but yesterday I just felt like I needed to get out and bring in a couple of new fresh things, so that's what I did. So the main purpose of this video is to share with you some stats and some numbers about how things went in 2024. I recently sent out an email to my email list, which if you're not on our list, we'd love it if you could join. If you go to our website, which is Moonstruck CLE. CLE is short for Cleveland. So it's moonstruckcla.com. You can go ahead and sign up there. So I sent out an email to our followers, and I just wanted to share some information about what happened in 2024 in terms of some statistics and information, and also to answer some frequently asked questions that I've gotten over the years in the shop. I run into a lot of people that seem to really have a dream of opening their own business, and some people are just curious. So as I get these questions, I've kind of been taking a mental note of what they are over the years, and I just thought I'd share some information with you. It'll give you a little bit more information about me and my store, how the store came about, and then how we did in 2024. You know, it's good information if you're really curious, like how much business is actually happens through the store, how much foot traffic we get, etc. I'm going to be looking down because I'm going to be reading off my list here. So I'm going to start out with some FAQs, or frequently asked questions. For those who are joining me for the first time, which is probably most of you, my name is Elisa, and I own a business in Cleveland's historic Little Italy neighborhood called Moonstruck CLE Vintage. And as I mentioned earlier, the CLV is short for Cleveland, and I'll get into that a little bit. I've been in that store and running that business for I'm in my 10th year, and I absolutely love it there. I love my neighborhood, and I love my business. So just to get started, we'll start first of all with some frequently asked questions. I started the business in November of 2015, just before the holiday business started. The store is named after my family's favorite movie, which is Moonstruck. I am Italian, and it suits my family very well. In fact, we often think we're living inside the movie at times, and we often quote the famous lines to each other when we get together. I'm a solopreneur. A solopreneur is someone who owns and operates the business basically on their own. However, I do get support and help from friends and family as needed, which I'm so grateful for. I have had employees in the past, but currently in this stage of my business, in my stage of life, I'm just choosing to run the business on my own. I opened the store because I'm a passionate vintage collector, and I have been most of my adult life. I also grew up in a family who really appreciated things that were older, in great condition, really high quality, etc. I'm responsible for sourcing merchandise, marketing, bookkeeping, inventory management, e-commerce, customer service, shoveling the snow, cleaning the bathrooms, whatever's needed. So as I said, I do most of it on my own with the help of some friends and family. Let's see, I also sell online through our website and through Etsy and eBay. And no, I'm not buying, and no, I'm not taking donations. I unfortunately don't have storage facilities, so when I'm looking for new merchandise, I have to buy as needed, and I can't take in a lot of merchandise. So as much as I appreciate the calls and the emails and folks asking me about, whether I'm buying, I tend to say no because I just simply can't take in a lot of merchandise. And I make my living this way. So I started the business, as I said, back in 2014. I was working a full-time job at that time. But around 2019, I was laid off from my job and I started working this business full-time. Okay, so we're going to get into a few of the stats from 2024. I'm really fortunate because my shop is in a location that has a lot of great foot traffic. So a lot of visitors, a lot of folks who live and work in the neighborhood, do business in the neighborhood. We have regular events throughout the year. So I'm really fortunate. There's a lot of visitors and there's a lot of new people coming through all the time. People love Little Italy and they really want to be there. So approximately 9,135 visitors crossed our threshold, and we don't count children. And if it's really obvious, we typically count a couple as one. But again, this is all manual counting. So I have a suspicion that it's higher than 9,135, simply because on our really busy days, counting people coming and going is a little tricky. But we do our best because it's a key indicator of how many people are we actually able to possibly serve during that time period. We actually served 2,690 customers, meaning that's how many customers that actually made a purchase. 2,383 of those were new first-time customers. Again, to the best of our ability, that's what we can tell. We calculate these numbers based on our system knowing whether your credit card has been used previously through the system at our location. And 307 of those customers were returning. New customers account for 73% of our sales, which, if you think about that, it's pretty amazing. So people who are finding us for the very first time are the people we're serving. It's a very large number of customers in our total customer base who might just be wandering by and not necessarily looking for vintage specifically. We had a total of 4,139 transactions, and the total number of items sold was 8,905. So that feels like a lot to me. I don't know how others would perceive it, but it is, a fair number of transactions and a fair number of items sold. Our top customer, who I won't reveal to you today, and they probably know who they are if they see this video, the top customer made a total of 22 visits this year, in 2024. And we have some really wonderful, very dedicated, loyal customers. This particular person is an overachiever, which I'm so grateful for. The average daily transactions are 16, and the average busiest time of the day is 2 o'clock. Now that varies pretty widely, but again, 2 p.m. tends to be our busiest time. And that's probably mostly driven by our Saturday and Sundays, which tend to be our busiest days. And the best month was August, and that's due to the Feast of the Assumption, which is held in our neighborhood every year in August around the 15th, which is the High Holy Day. We get a tremendous number of visitors. The street that I'm located on is closed down. There are vendors. There are all sorts of activity and events, very traditional, processional, etc. Food vendors, all sorts of things going on. And so people love to come, and it's really the best time of year for us. The best day that we had in 2024 was June 1st, and that was also a result of one of our other very popular events, which is the summer art walk in the neighborhood. And we do 2 art walks a year, one in June and one in December. excuse me. And they both also drive a lot of folks to the neighborhood. We still have a lot of artists in the neighborhood, studios, galleries, and people don't always have these places opened to the public, but during the art walks, they try to do that. And then most of the other vendors in restaurants do provide something special during that time, and everybody stays open later. So it's a great time to come and visit. Our top selling product categories are clothing and jewelry. So we sell vintage clothing primarily, some more contemporary clothing, a much smaller number, but we do have some contemporary clothing. And as far as jewelry, we have a mix. We have vintage jewelry, and we also have handmade jewelry by several different makers. And we also buy wholesale in some cases for new jewelry. Mostly earrings, actually. That's a very popular item in our store. And the top selling items, earrings, 391 pairs sold, and vintage dresses, 68 sold for 2024. So it's a lot of dresses. I didn't, that kind of surprised me. I wasn't aware we were selling that many dresses, but we do, and it's really cool. I love that because I love dresses myself. And then in terms of payment types, 84% of our customers pay with credit or debit cards, and then 16% paying cash. Now, I'm often asked in the store, what do you prefer, credit or cash? From a small business perspective, we always love to get cash, but we also are fully aware that not everybody carries cash with them. So we're happy to take any form of payment. But if you're going to ask us, we'll tell you we prefer cash. It's a way for us not to have to pay those credit card processing fees, which can really cut into a small business's revenue. So it's something to keep in mind. But we also get and I personally don't carry a lot of cash, so it doesn't surprise me. I just appreciate it, I guess, when people think of it. Even though they can't maybe pay in cash, they are also very aware of it. So those are just some of the stats. I'm not at a place where I'm going to really share my revenue with you or my profit, but that day hopefully will come. I'm really hoping. I tend to be a little bit conservative about sharing that information, but I can tell you I make my living this way, and so far so good. So there's a couple other things I want to share with you, and these are sort of highlights from the year, things I want to point out that I think are kind of cool. In 2024, I was interviewed on a podcast called the Savvy Shopkeeper podcast, and it's a group that I belong to, a mastermind group, and my mentor, Kathy Cruz, interviewed me on that podcast. I was so honored and thrilled to be asked and to have that time with her, because she's so wonderful and such a wonderful teacher and a kind-hearted soul, just in general. I also appeared on New Day Cleveland, which I will share the links to these, to the podcast interview and to the New Day Cleveland appearance in the show notes below. We participated in all of our neighborhood events, which I already mentioned, the Feast of the Assumption, the 2 art walks. We have a meatball crawl where you're given a passport and you go around to the various restaurants and get a sample of meatballs. It's a fantastic event. You would really enjoy it. We also gave out some sweet treats, some Italian candies and cookies. So we participated in that. We're also there during the Columbus Day Parade, excuse me, which goes right in front of the store, and the Cleveland Garden Walk, which our neighborhood is on the Garden Walk. So I always love being part of that as well. We co-hosted an altar making class to honor All Souls Day with a couple of fellow neighborhood merchants and residents, and we had a wonderful time. It was really inspiring. It was a great creative project. We created a sewing and crafting area, supply area in our shop. It's just an area that has fabric, vintage sewing patterns, vintage notions and trims and laces, and buttons, and it's been very popular. There's a lot of people out there crafting, making artwork, sewing, and people are just really enjoying a lot of this type of findings, which they can be very expensive if you go to a typical sewing shop or craft shop. Many of these items that are in this area or in this special part of the store belong to my grandmother. She was a very proficient seamstress, and she just collected a lot of this type of thing. So I'm so glad to see it get passed on to other people. And so that was great, well worth the effort to put that little area together in the store. I got to see the total eclipse of the sun right out in front of my shop, which was absolutely amazing. Two more things I want to share with you, and I'll try to do it kind of quickly. I get this question a lot, especially like in December or in January. Has it been a good year? So yes. And when I say yes, I make a sufficient living and I don't have debt. The numbers fluctuate from year to year, and some years are better than others. I appreciate that I did as well as I did this year, especially when I hear of so many small businesses closing or struggling. So our net sales were up by 0.37%. Our gross sales were up by 0.42%, and our transactions were up by 3.99%. So, and like I said, in the future, I hope to share more about the financial numbers, but right now, just pacing myself, keeping it real. So, and finally, I just want to talk a little bit about strengths and weaknesses. In terms of strengths for me and my business, I have a wonderful location and great foot traffic. Anytime anybody asks me about opening a business or starting a business, that's my number one suggestion to them, is make sure it's a great location with foot traffic, driving traffic, and if you can, be located next door to a very popular restaurant. That does not hurt. Trust me. I have a good eye and I'm dedicated and consistent. So I try to stick really carefully to my hours. I try to treat everyone fairly and equally. I'm not perfect, but I give it my best. I have a small but mighty repeat customer base and great margins on my vintage items because I buy smart, I buy low, so I can keep my retail prices fair and affordable. And I ask for help when I need it, which is an area I've been working on and I'm growing in, and I think I've gotten a lot better. So in terms of weaknesses, running the business alone restricts growth and is exhausting physically and mentally. So as you can imagine, it's kind of tough doing everything yourself. But again, like I said earlier in the video, I choose to do it this way. And as a result, I just do as much as I possibly can, and the rest of it has to kind of fall away. So, and that's okay with me. An ever-changing customer base causes challenges in deciding what to sell. Not all are vintage shopping. Some simply want a greeting card or an umbrella. And so that is something I mentioned earlier. 73% of our customers have never been in the store before, potentially, and they're just simply walking by. Not everyone is out intensely shopping for vintage. They're just visiting a very popular neighborhood and happen by our store. So we have to find the balance of what do we offer in terms of vintage, because that's the heart and soul of my business. And then what do we offer that somebody might want who's not looking for vintage. And the last thing I'll say in terms of weaknesses, kind of this ties back to doing this alone, is, you know, I tend to think small and very conservative. It's part of, it's a pro and a con because, you know, as I mentioned before, I don't have any debt and I can make a living this way. But it does restrict me somewhat from going in all in and maybe buying in large quantities and taking advantage of opportunities that are presented to me in terms of vintage in particular. I get calls just about every day, calls or emails about people wanting to sell their items to me, and I just can't possibly take it all in as a solo person. So that's it. Again, it's good and it's bad, but right now, that's the way it is. So that's it for 2024. I just wanted to give you some detailed information about the business. People are always very curious. People have asked me all kinds of things. Some just very earnest in wanting to know more. Some are curiously prying, but I also understand that I'm in a public position, so people feel like they can ask. Doesn't mean I have to answer. But anyway, most people are very kind and thoughtful, and that's all I can ask for. So thanks for joining me on my second video. Hopefully you'll get to come visit us one day if you haven't already. Thank you. Bye-bye.